This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
I guess we should announce what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This week we are not in the same space that we usually are. We're in our quote-unquote recording studio, which means we've got some furniture set up in the basement here and the most basic kind of soundproofing. But
blankets hanging on the walls.
Quote soundproofing. But this is the first step here, so that's pretty exciting. Also, we have our should I say our favorite listener? Is that mean to our other listeners?
I bet at this point we could definitely say our most loyal listener and our friend. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or we can say first guest.
Yes, our first guest.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go with that.
So, John Michael.
Hi, everybody. You guys probably don't know my voice yet, so hello. I'm John Michael, and Patrick and Seth were kind enough to invite me to try out a guest spot on the show, and here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it started with just you'd be at the live shows, and we just keep talking after we turned off the recording, and we're like, we're really enjoying this conversation. Let's put him in the podcast. This is a good conversation. Let's keep it going.
And John Michael's been basically running our Facebook page for the last couple of weeks here, or month maybe. Is it a month now? A couple of weeks at least?
Yeah, about 2 weeks now.
Kind of becoming part of the podcast here.
I guess so.
We've certainly got some traffic from the Facebook page. I think some of our new listeners who've probably found us through the Facebook page would be happy to know that John Michael's the one who's been helping you out.
I'm really, really happy to see that kind of growth.
Previously, we were really only had a presence on Instagram, Twitter, and a little bit on Reddit. And Facebook is such a huge platform, but Seth and I don't use it personally, so we just kind of neglected it for the first couple of months we were doing the podcast.
We're old men. We're old curmudgeon-y about Facebook.
Yeah.
People call me sir now. I don't know how I feel about that. I do know how I feel about that. Not good.
I know that feeling.
So let's dive into chapter 37, The Long Chase.
Let's do it.
Today we're talking about chapter 37, The Long Chase, and our symbol is the sunburst, because these next two chapters are related to Whitecloaks. Pretty exciting ones, but I'll just start here. Nynaeve gripped the reins of the three horses and peered into the night, as if she could somehow pierce the darkness and find the Aes Sedai and the warder. Skeletal trees surrounded her, stark and black in the dim moonlight. The trees in the night made an effective screen for whatever Moiraine and Lan were doing, not that either of them had paused to let her know what that was. A low, keep the horses quiet from Lan, and they were gone, leaving her standing like a stable boy. So what we see happening here is that Lan and Moiraine know that the Whitecloaks are right on the other side of this little hill. We just sort of see Nynaeve waiting for them to come back and tell her.
So what's happened since the last time we've seen these three? Because the last time we saw them, weren't they in Whitebridge? Yeah.
They've continued traveling along the Camelin Road.
They must have somehow turned towards Perrin.
Yeah, it's mentioned at some point in this chapter. I don't quite see it here. Maybe it's probably in the next couple of paragraphs. But they continue heading along the Camelin Road in the same direction Rand and Matt are going. Right. We know Moiraine only knows where Perrin is.
Yeah, he's the only one that still has his token or coin.
So she only knows where he is. So she's turned the party off the Camelin Road to go looking for Perrin specifically.
Because he got the coin back from Bayar.
Right. Yeah, that's actually in the next chapter, I think. They mentioned something about that. Because Moiraine was saying, I can't see him anymore. And then all of a sudden, she can again. So.
Yeah. And that's when they take away Perrin's possessions and then give them all back.
A few of these chapters kind of overlap, so...
Right. We're just seeing him from different perspectives. And one of the ways we sync up the events is through that loss of... sensing where Perrin is and then getting it back. We can sync that up with Perrin losing his possessions and then getting them back. So we know these things are happening at the same time.
Right.
We also see Moiraine. I kind of wanted to see what you guys thought of this. We also see Moiraine say at one point that she would be able, if she gets close enough, she would be able to find them anyway.
Actually, I know why that is. And that's because she's healed all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Agreed.
When she wipes away their fatigue?
Right.
Yeah.
Is that like a form of healing?
Yeah. I mean, it's not really healing per se, if you want to get really specific about it, but she touched them with her power, so...
I don't know how much I really know about how that, like, those connections work, or how much anyone really knows about how those connections work.
Well, we see it a fair amount when, not like when Nynaeve comes into Barrelon to find them. She goes right to the inn that they're at.
We see at some point Nynaeve. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but we see Nynaeve senses where Egwene is at some point in this chapter, and she knows it, and she's freaked out by it. Like, she knows that she knows where Egwene is because she's healed her before, and Moiraine explained that.
Yeah, same idea.
Exactly.
She has a passing thought, but like I said, we're getting ahead of ourselves. What happens next year?
As we do.
It's all about the tangents.
They had followed the Camelin Road until at last Moiraine sat forward in Eldeep's saddle, peering eastward as if she could see the whole length of the great highway. I have this underlined. All the many miles to Camelin. And so she's looking off the Camelin Road toward Perrin, and that's like a couple paragraphs later.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "The wheel weaves as the wheel wills," she murmured, "but I cannot believe it weaves an end to hope. I must first take care of that which I can be certain. It will be as the wheel weaves." And she turned her mare north, off the road into the forest. One of the boys was in that direction. With the coin Moiraine had given him, Lan followed.
I assume she's thinking, I can't believe it weaves an end to hope because there's only one boy she can sense.
Yeah, and
she thinks the other two, she can't believe that they're dead.
Yeah, and I think she has more than a strong idea that Rand is the Dragon Reborn. And she's saying, like, he must be alive because he's the Dragon Reborn. But she knows this group is important, and she knows that she only knows where one of them is. So the other two are probably fine. And if they're not, the world's over anyway.
And she probably also has a sense that they may be in Camelin. And so she's probably struggling with, do I go on to Camelin to try and find them there and possibly help the boys in front of me? Or do I turn off the road and help the boy who I know where he is and I know I can help him?
Right. She's kind of covering, she's like, let's get done what we know we can get done, and then continue on our wild goose chase, like where we think the others might be. Because it's more or less a guess at this point. She knows they're headed roughly towards Camelin.
She hopes they're headed towards Camelin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what she told them to do, so...
Yeah. Here's what we were just talking about a couple paragraphs after that. One evening after they had left the road, the invisible trail failed. Moiraine, the unflappable Moiraine, suddenly stood up beside the small fire where the tea kettle was boiling, her eyes widening. "It's gone," she whispered. And she kind of assures Nynaeve, like, no, he's not dead. He just doesn't have the coin anymore. And a little later, she says, "It's back."
And she's pretty much saying, I can keep going in the same direction. I know where he was when he lost the coin.
Yeah.
So I can definitely find that spot.
If we keep heading in that direction, we should find him anyway. But,
exactly.
And she literally says, in between those two, when she finds it, or when she loses the link through the coin, she says at some point, when I get close enough, I can find him without the coin. And then just shortly after, she says, he has regained the coin, wisdom, all will be well. That's when Perrin is stripped of his possessions. And of course, we already said all this.
The problem with talking ahead.
And the magic of editing.
And of course, at this point, they have no idea who they're actually following.
Right. I guess it could be any of
the three.
Or even, I guess, we can say the link only works because she can't sense where the coin is. She can only sense where the coin is if one of the boys is holding it.
Yeah, once that coin passes to somebody else, she cannot sense.
Yeah. So even if, like, Perrin gave his coin to Egwene, it wouldn't work.
No.
Right.
So the coin is definitely attuned to each boy. I bet even if the boys gave each other the coins, it wouldn't work. I bet it would have to be their specific coin.
Yeah.
Yep, I would agree with that.
We don't really see anything quite like that in the future that I can think of.
I'm just assuming it's a tied-off weave of some sort. But yeah, long-distance tracking, that's, that we do see it with like the warder bond.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's maybe like a warder bond cast on the coin and somehow activated by being in the possession of the boys.
It could be. That's as good as...
Or some aspect of it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That makes sense to me, yeah.
You say with skepticism.
I can go along with that, yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to think, what else do we know helps us identify where people are from a long distance?
Oh, I'm just trying to think about that, yeah, like, I'm not sure there is anything else. Really.
Nothing power related.
No, I mean, unless we're talking about, like, dreams or that kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But
The sniffer talents.
well, even then, that doesn't tell you where somebody is.
Just where they've been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I can't think of anything.
Well, and we know from the way Varen sort of puts together bits and pieces of compulsion that you can sort of create a big effect from lots of smaller effects.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that, she's just using one aspect of the warder bond, which we know is a pretty complex weave. So just, snip off the location part of that, throw it on a coin, attune it to a person. Reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had noted, like, just the fact that Moiraine has so much power, with the power. Just the fact that she's able to do that kind of thing, it makes sense to me.
Right.
She's one of the most powerful Aes Sedai.
Absolutely. Like, I'm thinking that, again, we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, but, like, she's calling lightning down from the sky, and, like, just the displays of power that this woman shows is pretty incredible.
I have that written in my notes in the next chapter where she repeatedly strikes, like, pretty much the same point on the ground with lightning, like, over and over and over and over. That's something that other Aes Sedai they couldn't even imagine doing unaided.
I imagine the Angreal has a lot to do with her power.
She may be using it. Or probably is using it.
That could be too, yeah.
Because we know she's got that ivory figure woman, Angreal.
Yeah.
Isn't she? I think she's pretty high up there at this point in the series anyway, even without the Angreal.
Doesn't she have to actually be holding that, though?
Like, higher than average.
Touching it. But like Rand frequently reaches into his pants to touch a little fat man.
Funny.
Yeah.
And we see later.
Anyway.
But yes, he does definitely just reach in and touch the Angreal in his pocket to use it.
I know we see later Moiraine, maybe Lanfear too. They have Angreal that are bracelets, so they're not even. You don't have to hold it; it just has to touch you.
It's like as long as it's in contact with your skin in some way, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like Matt's medallion.
Right. They're Angreal. They're Angreal.
Yeah.
That's the skin to skin touch is definitely a common theme.
Yeah.
Not skin to skin to Angreal.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever that's made out of, no one really seems to know.
All sorts of different things. Because don't they make the twisted stone Angreal out of stone, and they make the Foxhead medallion out of silver.
Yeah.
And I feel like they make some other ones out of iron. Like Quendiar is made out of iron.
Right.
It depends on what you're using it for.
Well, after the coin part, I just have this little part shortly after that marked where Lan appears out of the darkness. I thought it was a nice description of him. He creeps up on Nynaeve, more or less, and just kind of grabs her arm.
I was wondering why they did this in the middle of the night.
Sneak into the camp?
Well, why not? I mean, like, Lan is basically like a Navy SEAL of the Wheel of Time, so...
I guess, let me rephrase that. Why didn't they tell Nynaeve they were going to do it in the middle of the night before she went to sleep?
I'm not sure. There's this... I was actually talking to a friend last night who hasn't finished the series, and she's on like book 8 right now, and she was talking a lot about how she thinks Moiraine is an annoying character because if she would only fill in the people around her of what she's going to do, like things would work out better. And, you know, I had a little bit of insight for that. Of course, I was not trying not to give her too many spoilers. But, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. Why wouldn't you just say, like, here's what we think might happen. Like, wait, we have to check it out.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, if you come out and just say all of this to somebody, they're going to think you're completely insane.
Possibly, yeah. There are a bunch of potential reasons that you might not.
That cannot possibly be true.
Maybe they just wanted her to get some sleep, and they thought if they told her they were going to go in after the Whitecloaks, she wouldn't sleep. I mean, that's
like a child, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do think of her kind of like a child.
Yeah.
Moiraine certainly does. She thinks of her as a novice.
So Lan kind of walks up out of the darkness and grabs her arm and surprises her. And Nynaeve just about pulls a knife. And I just have underlined because I just love, this is Lan being Lan here. The warder's hood was thrown back, but his chameleon-like cloak blended so well with the night that the dim blur of his face seemed to hang suspended. The hand on her arm appeared to come out of thin air. I'm just imagining Nynaeve turns around and all she can see is Lan's face and hand.
Yeah, that color-changing cloak frequently camouflages Lan to look like a floating head.
So it's, yeah, and in the dark, the cloak is black on black. She can't see anything.
Right.
Until he pulls the hood back. And it's just very badass. I don't know. Like John said, he's the Navy SEAL of the Wheel of Time.
You're right.
Pretty much.
Appearing out of the darkness.
Have you seen Leon the Professional?
No.
Oh, heck yes.
Oh, yeah.
I love that movie.
Great movie. That scene in the beginning where he sort of appears out of the dark and puts the knife to the guy's neck, and all you see is his head and hands.
I've never seen it.
And then he disappears back into the dark. That's exactly what Lan I picture when I see this scene. I'll have to show that to you when we're after we're done recording.
In between chapters.
So he's Lan the Professional.
Lan the Professional, exactly. not quite Leon, Lan the Professional. Nice.
She drew a shuddering breath. She expected him to comment on how easily he had come on her unaware, but instead, he turned to dig into his saddlebags. "You are needed," he said, and knelt to fasten hobbles on the horses.
Yeah, nice explanation there.
Yeah. More of the, filling people in here. He's just like, "You are needed." And then he just grabs her arm and walks her off into the night, and they come up a small slope, and he just, kind of without saying anything. The way I'm imagining it is he just comes up and kneels there, and he's gestures out, and he says, "Whitecloaks." And there's this big camp down below them.
And I like this quote where she was just saying, "Well, how are you going to free him?" It was not until he glanced at her that she realized how much assurance there had been in her that he could march into the middle of 200 men and come back with the boy.
Yeah.
Well, he is a warder.
I had that written down too. I like that quote. And of course, Nynaeve saying, "Oh, anyway, he had very strong hands." I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's so much of that happening.
Might be a bit of foreshadowing there. Yeah, maybe a bit.
just a little bit. Well, they're flirting. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some. I mean, they've been together on the road now for a while, with nothing much to do.
Yeah.
Your book's falling apart, Patrick.
Yeah, my binding's fine. I just lost the last 4 pages of The Eye of the World. Just fell out. This book is heavily used at this point.
In a similar vein that she says, so he thinks I'm good, does he? And of course, I think at this point, she's, they've got some, they just know there's some kind of infatuation going on. They're kind of trying to impress each other.
There's some one-upsmanship going on, but it's definitely courting.
Yeah, we see later. I'm pretty sure it's in the it's in the next chapter where Lan returns with Egwene and Perrin, and she says Nynaeve hasn't returned yet, and Lan turns around to go back, and Moiraine kind of scolds him, and once again getting ahead of us. But that made me wonder how much Moiraine already knows about that relationship, how much could be hidden. How much does Moiraine know of what's developing here?
I think she reads Lan like an open book.
I think so too.
True, yeah.
When he turns around and he's worried and she's like, "Control yourself." if she doesn't get here, like, we have to go.
And remember, she can feel everything he feels through the water bond. So when he starts to feel affection, she knows that.
Totally. That's what I saw there, but that's like at the end of the next chapter.
Yeah. Well, Lan does kind of like break his kind of the mold of his character at the end of the next chapter. He goes off on a bit of a tangent.
I think that's when he's most interesting.
Yeah.
When he's going off on a tangent.
When he's like, just kind of going off about what's on his mind. And it's not like we get to see that a lot from him, so...
The rare occasions that he speaks more than a single sentence.
Yes. So when he does say something, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't come here to win. I came here to kill you.
Right.
But he says, I can get him out, but we're going to be chased.
Right.
So I need you to, I only have so many hands, basically, is what he's saying. I need you to go in there and help me and cut all the leads to the horses so they can't get on the horses and chase us.
Mm-hmm. Moiraine will create a diversion, and the Whitecloaks will be so busy chasing their horses that they won't have time to chase us. He says, there are 2 guards on that side of the camp beyond the picket lines, but if you're half as good as I think you are, they'll never see you. And here's what John Michael is just talking about. So he thinks I'm good, does he? I'll do it.
Yep. That's the one.
Lan nodded again as if he expected no less. And she pretty much just turns around and runs off into the darkness to go do this.
Well, there was one quote I wanted to talk about here where he says, one other thing, there are wolves about tonight. I saw 2, and if I saw that many, there are probably more.
Oh, right. I forgot that part.
Of course, one of those, I believe, is Dapple.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably Dapple and Wind.
Yeah. We don't get too much more on it, but it made me wonder...
That probably is both of them.
When Lan mentions, he says, like, the wolves seem to want me to see them. It made me wonder
I remember that quote too, yeah.
If that was, like, Elias kind of saying, what's up? Like, how do the wolves know who Lan is? But Elias knows who Lan is. They're buddies, as close of buddies as these guys have, is Elias and Lan.
That's a good point.
They know each other really well.
That's right, because Elias trained Lan.
Yeah.
The other thing that occurred to me is if the wolves see Lan, Perrin might be able to know Lan is there.
Yep. And of course, in the next chapter, too, we see Perrin's eyes have changed color, and people are starting to notice.
Well, he definitely could see in the dark when they got captured. And I wonder maybe if that's part of Bayar's fanaticism and thinking that he's a dark friend is that he can see the eyes turning golden.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I was wondering because, like, Bayar's behavior is extremely bizarre throughout these 2 chapters.
Yeah. I was going to point out, along the lines of what you were saying, Seth, at some point, Dapple does say to Perrin in his head, help comes. And I don't think Dapple means I'm coming. Dapple means, like, there are people coming to help.
Right.
Dapple sees Lan. And then in the next chapter, from Perrin's perspective, we see him get this message.
So I assume here where Lan sees the wolves, that's when Perrin gets the message.
Somehow the wolves know who Lan is.
Yeah.
We don't get to see exactly how that exchange works, but
it makes maybe sense not exactly who he is, just that he's help.
Yeah.
And they can smell Aes Sedai.
Sure. I mean...
So they know Moraine's there.
Mm-hmm. There's any number of reasons that the wolves might know why. Or that these humans are going to be helpful and these other ones are not.
And I guess the other point I wanted to bring up is where he says, anyway, they shouldn't bother you. Wolves usually stay away from people. And this goes back to a point I was making in a way earlier episode when we were talking about how wolves were bringing people down, and that was with the rumors, but we think it's actually Trollocs.
Yeah.
This sort of goes back to that idea that we know the wolves are staying away from people. If people are disappearing and it looks like they've been savaged by wolves, it's most likely Trollocs.
Almost definitely. And, possibly other types of shadow spawn.
Now, my pronunciation is going to be awful. Dragcar?
Yeah.
Drakkar. Drakkar.
Drakkar? Is that how we say it? Okay.
Dragcar. I think you had it right the first time. What about them?
It just... that could be what was savaging, the farmer's sheep.
That's kind of what I was implying when I said other types of shadow spawn.
Or, as you guys said, any other type of shadow spawn.
Well, we do know there was a Drakkar in the Two Rivers.
At least one.
At least one.
Yep.
And the only thing we know was definitely there for sure. I don't think there were any Darkhounds. So I think it was just Trollocs, Myrddraal, and Drakkar.
Shortly after that, Lan and Nynaeve have that conversation. Nynaeve has the thought, I think this is her thinking, where she says wolves that usually ran away from people had been behaving differently in the Two Rivers this winter. And that made me wonder if the wolves had been behaving differently or getting closer to the Two Rivers than they normally did because Perrin's there.
I don't think so. Because if they knew that Perrin could talk, they were surprised when they found Perrin.
True. Or, yeah.
I think it's also possible there may have been Trollocs in the hills for a while. And that the acting weird was just the dead sheep and stuff. So the next thing I have is Nynaeve sneaking into the camp.
Yeah. We see the sort of regimented behavior of the Whitecloaks and how they don't notice Nynaeve, and Nynaeve says she wonders if she had stood up if they would even have seen her.
Just once again, the incompetence of the Whitecloaks is stunning. They're bullies. They have no real combat skills.
Oh, the Whitecloaks are just awful. I have a note here written about them. Their patrol. There's patrolling Whitecloaks, and they're going on, they're marching to one spot and saying, well, all is well with the night. The light illumine us and protect us from the shadows. It's are they just going back and forth saying that same thing all night? It's they're religious zealots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they don't think that their patrols are protecting them. They're thinking the light is going to protect them.
Right. And I guess they have this little ritual almost, I guess, I found that bizarre.
They're going through the motions of guard duty without actually
Yeah, it is.
paying attention.
Yeah. And they're thinking oh yeah, nothing can harm us because, God is going to protect us, basically.
Yep. We're both shaking our heads
Shaking
at each
my
other.
head.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm shaking my head across the continent, too.
The three of us are shaking our heads at each other. Ridiculous.
So Nynaeve kind of watches them, and in a video game type fashion, she watches the patrols move back and forth, waits for the right moment, moves in quickly and slow and quick and starts sawing at the lines. She gets she says 4/5 of the way through everything she was that's probably enough, and she's no. I want to do this 100%. I'm trying not to say this in a mocking voice because Lan's counting on her. She wants to impress him.
So after playing Frogger, she sneaks into the camp.
Yes.
Cuts the ropes. And yeah, 4 out of 5 is enough. It's good enough, right? It totally would have kept them from chasing, but it's not great. And that competition with Lan pushes her to be great.
Yeah.
She has to go just that little bit above and beyond to
be as impressive as possible. But I think the lack of a better term, the wheel really is willingness, because the next thing I have underlined is Joss said she moved to the last picket line, and the first horse on it was Bella. And we all know how important Bella is.
Oh, Bella. Yeah. Bella's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
If she hadn't cut that picket line, they wouldn't have gotten Bella back.
By all accounts, Bella is the most important character of this story, so...
Clearly.
She's the main character, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
These side chapters about Rand are actually kind of boring.
Right. We're always waiting to find out what's happening to Bella.
When's the next Bella chapter?
Oh, God, okay, fine. But what's happening with Bella?
And so she's just cutting most of the way through so that when the quote-unquote distraction happens, they'll run and break through the tethers. She's not cutting them all the way.
Oh, here's something that I wanted to take a second to talk about that I already sort of mentioned earlier, where she cuts Bella free, and then I have her arms and legs trembled so that she was afraid to touch the picket rope, but her mind was as clear as the wine spring water. Whichever of the boys was in the camp, Egwene was there too, and if they left riding double, some of the children would catch them no matter how well their horses were scattered, and some of them would die. She was as certain of it as if she were listening to the wind. That stuck a spike of fear into her belly, fear of how she was certain. This had nothing to do with the weather or crops or sickness. And when her mind is as clear as the wine spring, like she's afraid, she finds Bella, she's terribly afraid, and then her mind is as clear as the wine spring water, and she knows where Egwene is. And I think that she is listening to the wind, and I'm quoting because it's not exactly the same, but Nynaeve has this developed ability. I think that she's channeling a little here.
You know what? I think there was a point before where Moiraine touches Nynaeve on the arm. Robert Jordan made a point of saying like, "Oh, she grabbed her." I'm wondering if that is some kind of like, because Moiraine knows where the boys are.
Sorry, I honestly think this is just Nynaeve getting close enough to Egwene because she's healed her and she senses that she is in there, and so she knows with absolute certainty that Egwene is in there with whatever boy because she can sense her in there.
Yeah. So she at least knows that Egwene is there, and that really freaks Nynaeve out because she knows why she knows.
Right.
Now.
And she knows that knowing is part of channeling.
Yeah.
And that's what's freaking her out.
Right, yeah.
She also thinks about, like, as sure as she felt while she was listening to the wind, which she also now knows is channeling or power related.
And that's why I like this quote. Why did Moiraine tell me I can use the power? Why couldn't she leave me alone? Because now that she knows that listening to the wind is and healing sickness is the power, she's like, it's really freaking her out. When she could just do it, it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
And to be fair, that is probably like a pretty scary realization.
Yeah. I mean, I would be
like,
sort of
imagine
freaked
if
out.
You just like all of a sudden found out, like, and of course the Two Rivers folk were like really kind of against Aes Sedai and all that. It's like, oh, voodoo magic, keep that away from me.
Nynaeve in particular is definitely anti-Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
So to find out that you're actually like kind of one of them, it's like, oh god.
Yeah, totally.
It'd be like finding out you're your own worst nightmare, which Rand goes through as well. Even worse. Finds out not only can he channel, but he's going insane, and he's the Dragon Reborn.
There's a
which is like the devil.
His head, and
yeah, we'll get there.
we're working on it. There's the little scene where Nynaeve is like kind of petting the horses and soothing them so they don't make too much noise. I'm laughing because
I don't know if you can hear Timber's tail is thumping the table.
that our microphones are hooked up to.
Oh, is that what that is? Whenever I hear an extraneous noise, I just kind of assume it's Timber.
That's often is.
Doing, let's go with Timberisms.
Timberisms? I was just saying we go through the scene where Nynaeve takes Bella and is sort of petting some of the other horses to soothe them, which she notes are not nearly such well-trained war horses as Lan's. They seem like nice regular farm horses. And she has this thought, desperately, she wished for Moiraine not to wait on her return. Whatever the Aes Sedai was going to do, let her do it now. Light make her do it now, before abruptly light shattered the night overhead, for a moment obliterating the darkness. And for like the next 2 paragraphs, there's lightning just striking. I'm imagining sort of in the same general area to scatter the horses in sort of a big half circle over and over and over. And we know how much power that takes. We see Rand do it later. We see some other Aes Sedai do it, but it takes an incredible amount of power to make that much noise destruction, and I mean just the lightning itself.
Yeah.
I think Nynaeve did the first lightning bolt.
Do you think so?
I absolutely think so.
Really? Okay.
See, I thought
did not even think
this
about
was a
it.
weird little part. Yeah, I don't want to make you listen to me read it again, but she literally, she's having the thought, light, make her do it now, before ... abruptly lightning shattered the night overhead. And that's like, it's just a continuation of Nynaeve is hoping that something would happen, and then lightning slams into the ground.
And then Moiraine is just kind of like picking up the slack. It's like, oh, okay, like she's gone and done it, so, you know, I'm gonna do my part now. It could be that kind of thing. I never even thought of that, but yeah.
And that would make sense that earlier with her mind clearing, that would be her embracing the source.
Yeah. I thought that at some point she was channeling this because of like some of her feelings, like the mention of like how clear her mind feels. Yeah, I didn't even think of this part though. I bet that's what it is. Nynaeve makes that first lightning strike.
And then Moiraine just copies it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never really thought about that, but yeah.
Then she gets her arms yanked out of her sockets.
Yeah. For an endless minute, she hung suspended between the two horses, her feet off the ground, her scream flattened by the second crash. So, yeah, it kind of sounds like there's the single lightning strike, and then there's a long hesitation, and then the lightning is slamming over and over after that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long. I mean, the second one is quick. It says another lightning bolt sliced down before the image of the first had faded. I do agree that it sounds like there's a longer gap between the first one
and the rest.
Because, lightning, after it strikes, that image can be in your eyes sort of for a while.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that there may be a gap, and then they start crashing again and again. That would make sense if it took Moiraine that second to start channeling and start creating the lightning.
I'm just kind of reading the next couple paragraphs.
Yeah, I mean, it says for an endless minute, she hung suspended between the horses, her feet off the ground, her scream flattened by the second crash. So, just from that, it sounds like some amount of time has passed between, the first lightning crash and the second.
Enough for the horses to rear up and her to sort of be lifted off the ground and to start screaming.
I'm sticking with that story. Nynaeve does the first lightning strike. Moiraine does the rest. And then, in the chaos, the wolves swoop in.
Yeah.
And start chasing the horses around.
The wolves understand the plan enough to help to get the horses scattered.
Yeah.
I wonder if Elias is guiding them in that.
Probably.
And of course, Nynaeve is all like, "Oh, wolves, light, help us!" She doesn't know at this point that obviously the wolves are on their side, but...
No. She thinks Moiraine is controlling the wolves, I think.
Maybe.
Could be, yeah.
Right? Wolves, light, help us. What is Moiraine doing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that.
That, to me, says the only way that wolves would come in is if Moiraine was channeling them in. Somehow in control of them, which is not true at all.
Yeah.
Almost definitely Elias. Perrin's passive at this point. He's just occasionally tunes in.
And the wolves, being their own independent, they want to help. I mean, they
want to look after him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe a big part of it's probably their idea. And then I just have the last paragraph underlined. Just read it out like I usually do. The heels she dug into Bella's sides were not needed. The mare ran, and the other was more than happy to follow, anywhere, so long as they could run, so long as they could escape from the fire that killed the night sky. I really liked that because of
that line.
Yeah, I really liked that line too, because the wolves are there, and in kind of wolf language, the way Robert Jordan puts us in the heads of animals sometimes, the fire that killed the night sky.
I like that.
Yeah, it was just a nice line.
It's not lightning, it's fire from the sky.
Right.
Honestly, this is one of those scenes I really can't wait to see on TV. This, the lightning overhead, the wolves, the horses in every direction, the panic. This is one of those I really want to visualize.
It'll be interesting too to know how the editing they do and stuff. We were just talking about how it could have been Nynaeve that did that first lightning bolt. They could edit it so that it looks like it was her that did it first.
Yeah.
Or they could completely gloss over that and just make it all Moiraine.
And what a great scene it would be. She's crouched and scared and running through the night, and she's clutching this dagger while she's I'm imagining her sweating and afraid because she's, cutting the horse lines. And then all of this chaos breaks out. Cut to Perrin brutally beaten and laying on the ground and bleeding. We see later that he's way worse off than he thought.
No, I think the quality of the show is going to depend a lot on those little details. Are they going to include the subtle detail that Nynaeve had the first lightning strike and leave that there for the fans to find, or is they going to gloss over something like that?
And there are so many little details like that.
Yeah, so I think one of my purposes of the podcast is to point out as many as I can, and hopefully the showrunners will do the same.
Yeah, and on a television show, you really have to capitalize on those strong action parts, because it's it's not the same as reading a book. Like how many episodes or how many hours of content, of visual content, would you make out of The Eye of the World? This is an 800-page novel, and there's 13 more.
Well, and you can tell a lot of the story visually without taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
And a lot of those pages of description and traveling can be turned into a much more compact, the whole picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, how many words are in this book? So how many pictures, how many frames per second? I bet we can do the conversion.
Sure, but there's a lot.
You're totally right. That whole chapter could have just been Nynaeve awkwardly standing there waiting in the darkness. Lan appears out of nowhere, grabs her, and just motions let's go. Pulls her into the darkness. They come up over the rise. He shows her and says this is what you're gonna do. She runs down there, does it. That's a minute. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That was actually a pretty short chapter.
It was. There weren't a lot of pages. There was a good amount of talking too. Good amount of talking. Man, words.
About what was happening.
Yeah. A good amount to talk about.
Yeah. The next one's really good too. I think they run right together.
Yeah.
They certainly do. Well, they kind of occur concurrently.
Yeah.
They sure do.
Yeah.
You guys want to take 10?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
The wheel weaves as the wheel wools.
I want to do this standard. I want to thank our new Patreons. I keep saying Patreons instead of patrons.
Oh yeah, Patreon patrons.
Yes, but I like the Watreons.
We should just call them shepherders.
Shepherd. I like that. Our band of sheepherders.
Yes.
Our band of shepherders, actually. Yeah. We could make up a whole new group of people, the shepherders instead of the sheepherders.
Flinging stones at the eyes of the Dark One.
So let me thank our new folks this week. Michael Vaughn. I feel like he's pledged before. Am I seeing that name again?
I don't know if I remember that one, but in any case, thank you, Michael Vaughn.
Thank you, yeah. The next one looks like Lisa Bowens. Forgive me if I said that incorrectly.
Thanks so much, Lisa.
Thank you. That was awesome. Jonathan Winter helped us out.
Mr. Winter. Good name. Yeah. Sort of appropriate. Especially for this point in the series.
Well, hopefully winter's coming soon. Yeah, I'm sick of this hot weather.
It's cooling down.
Been hot here too. It was almost 30 degrees today. It was hot.
It was.
Of course. I should mention that I'm actually on the East Coast, and Patrick and Seth are actually on the West Coast of North America, so...
Not only are you not just on the right coast, you're in the wrong country, too.
That, too. I'm Canadian, by the way.
Yeah, coming to us straight from Canada.
Perhaps the right country.
Oh, well. I'm just... Politically.
Someone yelled at us for talking about politics in the last podcast, we should probably avoid that. There's no reason to alienate anyone.
Oh, but I like it so much.
I know. It's so fun. But anyway, we're not going to do that.
We're basically a half and half team now. Patrick's All-American. John Michael's all Canadian, and I'm half of each. So.
Oh, right. That's funny.
So I guess that means you're like the best of both of us.
Or the worst of it.
Or, well, yeah.
Then we got another pledge from Block on the New Kid, which is an awesome name.
Lay off the new kid, Block.
New Kid on the Block, backwards.
I get it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let me just explain the joke and make it better. Then we got Christopher
Nilsson.
Okay. Christopher Nilsson.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Shane Warren helped us out.
Man,
you,
so many this week.
I know,
Thank you, Shane.
It's really a lot of people, I think, found the podcast.
Was it 6 new people in the last 2 days?
Yeah.
That's huge for us. I don't know if you guys ever want to send us a message or to talking to our Patreon patrons, whateverins, and just let us know. I've been trying to ask everyone that hits us up on social media when I'm responding to the messages, like, how did you find the podcast? Because I'm always curious how we got your attention, especially the patrons. What made you decide? Did you just discover the podcast? Were you listening for a while and you decided to start donating, or what? Why are you doing this?
Why are you listening to these guys? I don't know.
I would love to figure out some kind of science as to what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And
we've been getting so many support messages. Like, people are sending emails saying, I love what you're doing, keep it up, don't stop. I've texted a few of them to you, and I think we've shared a few of them, but they're really positive messages.
As a total aside, we're in our new space tonight, which was to cut down on background noise and stuff, but we still have timber here, and I actually really like that. I don't know if I've said this on while we're recording it, but I like that timber is sort of apart. You can, like, occasionally hear him growl in the background and stuff. He was just chewing on something. The mic probably didn't pick that up, but
that's called ambiance.
I don't know. Sometimes it picks him up, sometimes it doesn't.
He's not that loud.
No.
He's just laying on the floor next to me.
But I'm not done yet. That was just more people. Colton Guyman.
Thank you, Colton.
Logan Hills.
Logan. Thank you.
No I, unfortunately, just
Purposely
Logan Hills, but
it.
pretty good.
Thank you, Logan.
And I'm not sure if I said Shane Warren already, so I'm going to say it again, Shane Warren.
Thank you, Shane.
And I think that's it for this week. Jeez, it's just crazy the growth we're seeing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So that was 6 from the last 2 days, and then we had like 3 more earlier in the week.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Crap. Correcting.
Wait, you corrected from cow to crap?
Yeah, because this is a podcast. What is the FCC going to get involved?
Apple might
why
tell
I'm
us.
censoring myself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now look here, you cannot say that on air, okay?
Wait, what?
Canadian FCC here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Canadian, eh? We're polite, eh?
We're reaching the point where we're big enough that stuff happens that we don't do.
That's a good point.
There
may be some tiny fan forum out there, or like some, group of friends that are like, hey, I just found this.
We
Did you
found
guys check this
some
out?
like role-playing groups.
I think that was like our big first wave of listeners, were some of the RP groups on Instagram.
Yeah, you found a lot of people through that.
Yeah.
I think that was our second wave. I think our first wave was through the Dragon Mount tweet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Jason Denzel helped us out. He's been the source of 2 of our big waves.
Uh-huh.
A huge shout out to Jason, by the way.
Yeah, we should thank Jason Denzel again, who's one of the kind human beings who runs dragonmount.com and other fan sites. I think he has something to do with the Facebook. I don't know if it's his or...
He runs that, yeah.
Yeah.
And he also, I think he runs JordanCon too, or is it at least... Yeah, he's a runner of JordanCon.
Yeah?
Yeah. Which we've been talking about going to.
Yeah, I at least want to show up. I don't know if we're going to do anything, but it would be cool to just go.
Yeah, just as guests.
Say what's up to people.
Yeah. I would love to go to a Dragon Con, and this seems like the right time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool if you guys had like a booth or something there too.
I mean, yeah, I was thinking that also. It's like, what is it, 6 months out? I'd have to look at when the next one is.
It's on 420.
Oh, of course.
Of course it is, yeah.
So I remember that for some reason. So we've got, 4 months left of this year? So it's 8 months out.
Okay, well, that gives us some actual time to, like, think about it. What we're going to do or to plan something. I don't know.
Yeah, and who knows what the show will be like in 8 months.
Mr. Denzel wanted to come on the show. I don't know if he still does, but if maybe in between here and there, we'll actually be in touch with him and
I think we definitely want him on the show, and he's definitely said he wanted to come on, and John Michael's helping us out with a practice run for that.
Yeah.
And also adding a voice to the podcast. So, I do want to say, I think you've heard a lot of me and Patrick talking, so let's bring in some other people. What are their opinions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because mine aren't always right.
No kidding.
They usually are. Don't get me wrong. They're usually right. Well, okay, do we want to start diving into this? And
Yeah, let's do it. Enough chat. Let's chat.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?